Hi guys. Okay, let's start class. So I hope you managed to watch assessment criteria 1.1, assessment criteria 1.1, and I hope you have done the exam. Now don't worry because there might be a lot of words in that exam, online exam using the exam engine. If you have done it, don't worry. If you have got a low score, as soon as you finish the exam, you will get a score. And then you will get an email. The email will tell you what the correct answers are. I will also get some feedback as to what you have done and your name and your marks as soon as you finish. So I don't expect you to get a lot of marks for the first exam, right? I don't expect you to get a lot of marks for the first exam. So don't worry about it. But the important thing is for you to identify whether there are any words you don't know, whether there are any theories you don't know. Maybe look at the recommended reading I've given on Google Classroom and look at some of the reading material that I put on assessment criteria 1.1. I've also put a video from CIM, which I want you to watch. So please make sure you read for CIM. If your friends ask you, are you doing CIM? So say, I'm not studying CIM, I'm not doing CIM. I am reading for CIM. I'm reading for CIM. So I've given you a chapter to read and some videos to watch in assessment criteria 1.1. Okay, let's start AC 1.2 today and discuss the scope of marketing activities. Discuss the scope of marketing activities. All right. So we've done assessment criteria 1.1. We've done assessing the purpose of marketing in an organization. Now we are going to look at assessment criteria 1.2 and discuss the scope of marketing activities, and we'll cover the respective indicative content. So I hope you're clear on the syllabus. And at the end of this chapter, you will have another exam that you need to do. So understand what's happening and read the material, watch all the videos you have. You can take any amount of time and then enjoy marketing. You have to enjoy studying. Intellectual stimulation is also like food, like all the other pleasures we have, intellectual stimulation. Enjoy studying, especially if you're young. Enjoy studying because your mind is fresh. Your mind is absorbing things like a sponge. It's a very interesting time in your life. So please make sure you absorb everything, and you have now enrolled for this course. So take as much as you can, absorb as much as you can, right? Okay. So let's now start assessment criteria 1.2. So I want to take you through the structure of a marketing organization. Some of you come from a marketing background, you have some work experience, some of you don't. Don't worry about it, right? So in terms of the functions, the different departments within a marketing department. So you have the CMO right at the top, or the marketing director, or the chief marketing officer, or the marketing manager. Depends from company to company. So typically you'll have a CMO and you'll have these divisions. Sales would come under marketing. Brand management would come under marketing. NPD or product management would also come under marketing. Customer experience management would come under marketing. And increasingly, there is a area called research and analytics, marketing analytics, data analytics, right? Would also be a very important feature within the marketing department. So this is a typical marketing structure of an organization. And what do they do in sales? What do we do in brand management, product management, or innovation? So I've given you from my book some interesting points as to what each function would cover. Each function would cover. So these are the functions within the marketing. department. Okay. And then we talk about the strategic plan of the organization. Now, the strategic plan of the organization is another word for it is the corporate plan. The corporate plan, right? This is done by the board of directors. This is usually done once a year during the budgeting cycle. So the strategic plan needs to be finalized. We can call this also the business plan or the corporate plan. So usually the CEO, the board of directors, and all the functional heads get involved in crafting the business plan or the strategic plan. So after you finish the strategic plan, you do the marketing plan. After you finish the marketing plan, you will do the operations capacity plan, HR and finance planning, IT and the IT roadmap, R&D, new product development, all that. So you can see all these functions are connected to the overall strategic plan of the organization. And marketing plays a very important role within strategic planning. Why? Because marketing and sales, we discussed this, in the last class as well. Marketing and sales talks about top line or sales revenue, how to deliver the sale, and that is income. If you don't have income, then there's no point doing any of the other activities, finance, HR, manufacturing, operations, IT, those are all costs. Therefore, sales and marketing becomes a very key function. And it provides information, marketing provides information and input to prepare the strategic plan, right? So strategic planning precedes marketing planning, right? So strategic planning where you develop the vision, mission, long-term goals and objectives of the organization. Strategic planning precedes or comes before marketing planning, right? And the strategic plan would guide marketing as well as all the other functions. And strategic planning sets the stage for the marketing plan. So now you can distinguish and understand the difference between a corporate plan or a business plan. Another word is the strategic plan versus the functional plans. And marketing is one function. So we undertake the marketing plan within the marketing department, right? So I've given you a note here so that you'll understand this a little better. Perhaps you can read through this leisurely, how marketing fits within the strategic plan, right? How marketing fits within the strategic plan. So if you look at it as a diagram, Kotler has put forward this diagram, right? Kotler has put forward this diagram in terms of marketing's contribution to strategic planning, marketing's contribution to strategic planning. So you have the overall strategic plan, and then you develop the marketing plan based on the strategic plan. So you undertake a lot of analysis, then do the strategic plan, then develop your marketing plan, and then you implement through sales, through operations. You carry out the marketing plan, and then finally you control the marketing plan, right? So you don't need to study this, but it's just a graphical illustration by Philip Kotler, the godfather of marketing, in his book on marketing's contribution to strategic planning, right? So here's another diagram that connects both strategic planning and marketing planning. So in the strategic plan, we spend a lot of time devising the vision, mission of the organization, the long-term vision, mission, long-term goals. And we set long-term goals and objectives at a corporate level, at a C-suite level, the CEO and the board of directors, right? And then we come down to designing the products and services that we want to offer. And after we do that, you'll see the marketing plan and the other functional unit plans, finance, HR, IT, operations that will need to be developed, right? So this is a graphical illustration of marketing's contribution to strategic planning, right? So you can again read this, which talks about the marketing's role in strategic planning. I have given you the respective slides, some examples from Philip Kotler. All right. So our next assessment criteria is around branding. Let's understand what a brand is. The American Marketing Association defines a brand as a name, term, sign, symbol, design, or a combination of any of these, which can be used to identify a product or service and to differentiate a product or service. Okay. So a symbol like the Nike swoosh is a part of the brand. A design like calligraphy, a name, a term like Carlsberg says, probably, a sign. So any of these which can be used to identify a brand, a product, and to differentiate it from that of competition can be classified as a brand. So here we talk about brand, a definition of a brand and what branding is. A brand is used to differentiate yourself, and you will use some unique characteristics. A brand will have some values. Values, we call them brand values, what the brand stands for. And it's important that companies don't stretch the brand too far. Example, if you look at Virgin, is a brand that has stretched into 200 companies. There's Virgin Rail, Virgin Galactic, Virgin Atlantic, Virgin Blue, so many Virgin Voyager, 200 plus Virgin companies. So you have to be careful in doing that, because if something happens to one product, that will then, like a pack of cards, affect all the other companies because you're using the same brand. This thing happened to Selling Co. some time ago. And anything can be branded. You can brand products, services, a country, a person, sports, art, locations, ideas, even the fragrance inside a BMW car or Singapore Airlines has patented its fragrance, right? Chiquita bananas are branded. So in Sri Lanka, there's still a lot of products that are generics. Generics means they've not branded it. The generics. Example, coconuts in Sri Lanka. We have a poltricone in Sri Lanka, the coconut triangle in Sri Lanka, but we have not been able to brand the coconuts, right? So there's no such thing as a commodity. Theodore Levitt, this is Kotler's teacher of marketing, Ted Levitt, Harvard professor, he says, there's no such a thing as a commodity. A commodity is a product that is not branded. All good services can be branded and differentiated. And when we talk about branding, we talk about brand positioning. What do you mean by positioning? In Sinhalese, we call this Thanagata Kirima. Positioning is where you occupy the consumer's mind for some unique benefit that the product offers. So example, positioning is occupying a clear, distinct distinctive, desirable place in the mind of the consumer, right? In the mind of your consumer, that is where you position your product. You position your product in the mind of the consumer, right? Where you occupy a unique positioning in the mind of the consumer. So brand positioning is at the heart of marketing. If you position your product correctly in the mind of the customer, you can charge any price. So you have to carefully position, sthanagata kirima. You have to carefully position the product in the mind of the customer. Strong positioning will create revenue and profits. So you can see this example of Instagram users here. The brand stands for much more than just a photo sharing service. I mean, Instagram's brand is a very, very strong brand. It means growing closer to friends and family through shared experiences in the moment. So it's just not something that you upload picture with, right? It's more than that. It's your personality, and it's how you would keep in touch with your friends and your family and share your experiences and show what kind of person you are. Your personality is how you manage your Instagram page. So if you look at positioning, positioning is positive. If you look at people like Kumar Sangakkar, have very positive positioning, very positive, clear, distinctive positioning. If you look at brands like Starbucks, they've been positioned well in the mind of the customer. Sometimes the product is not good, but it has been positioned very well in the minds of the customer. So we will discuss this when we look at STP, segmenting, targeting, positioning, a little later, right? And here's another brand that has been greatly positioned, that is Disneyland, right? And here they have used emotion to position the product. You know, there are characters like Elsa. Today, if you look at young kids, especially girls, you know, how Mickey Mouse used to appeal for 100 years. Mickey Mouse is 100 years old, by the way. Yeah? He's 100 years old, but he can still appeal. But they have reinvented this brand by introducing new characters, right? There's a song called Let It Go. If you have not heard of it, please Google and listen to it. All children, especially girls, are crazy over it. It's sung by Elsa, right? And today, all the young girls under 5 or 6, maybe 7 years old, they want to dress like Elsa. So you can see the positioning, how strongly this brand is positioned in the mind of the customer. So Disney World Resort, they say, I have a deep love and bond to all things Disney. So they have extended that brand into movies, into TV, Disney TV. Then they have extended it to theme parks, cruise lines, so many areas. And they have a very powerful positioning, which is sustained over a period of time. You can rebrand. You can rebrand after a period of time. If your brand is tired, you can rebrand and reposition your brand maybe to a new market or the same market, right? So one example here that I'd like to talk about is how McDonald's is rebranding and repositioning itself. You know, McDonald's in Europe today, the consumer is very environmental conscious. They don't like processed meat, and they don't like everything McDonald's stands for. And today, McDonald's in the West, they're moving from this to this. They're going green. This is what they are now. And they serve salads. Instead of this, they offer this, right? A lot of sugar. They offer healthy stuff. And they've gone into their menu, which is very, very focused on sustainability and green and healthy. So they've rebranded themselves and they're moving from the red stores to the green stores, right? So the green stores are where you wouldn't mind your child eating. So if someone says you want to go to McDonald's, you take them to a green McDonald's, not the red McDonald's. Red is also there, green is also there. So they're slowly cutting over all the McDonald's into the green, healthy menu. And it's a huge challenge for them. So if McDonald's can rebrand, any product or brand can rebrand. And in terms of marketing, the marketers are called to be responsible. Marketers are called to be responsible. And in our responsibility, we need to ensure that we sell our products and services in an ethical manner. And sustainability is a topic that talks about how marketers should think about the environment. Today, I don't need to tell you the challenges, the environmental challenges that face the world. And sometimes you think marketing is also certainly responsible for all the challenges that are happening. Today, you can see the icebergs are melting as fast, and the weather patterns are changing globally, right? Winter has become summer, summer has become winter. There's no snow in some areas that used to snow, heavy rains when it rains. So it's a big problem. And companies today are also responsible for this because we pollute the environment with all the packaging, the plastic, the emissions, the recycling problems that we have. So sustainability marketing is a socially and environmentally responsible marketing program so that we go to the consumer and we tell the consumer that we are a sustainability focused business. You can see, for example, in this uh, Patagonia, right? This is a brand. These are clothes made from other clothes. So it's a recycle. And you might think, do people really buy this? Who wants to buy clothes made from others' clothes, right? So Patagonia won't wear recrafted an initiative, and they call it upcycled products made from stockpiles fabric and beyond repair clothing that would otherwise end up in a landfill. The scars tell a story. So when they come out with this, today in the West, there are so many people who are environmentally conscious, and they'll embrace this concept because the brand stands for certain values. And I know of customers today, before they buy a product, they will look at the sustainability credentials of the company and very seriously look at it, especially in the West, because you're doing a British exam. Sustainability is taken as a very serious topic, especially in Britain, right? So when we talk about sustainability, again, I spoke about McDonald's, how they're moving their entire recipe, right? How their kids' meals are offering balanced food components and ingredients, right? And then you have this concept of materialism. Some marketers are urging conscious consumption, right? Whilst many companies, they have a Black Friday sale, but you can see an example here where this company is displaying a logo. We are closed today, and we think that's a good thing, right? So they are encouraging customers don't consume so much, conscious consumption. And marketers are guilty of this sin because we promote a lot of products and we are happy with sales. If you don't do sales, then your marketing is ineffective. But at the same time, we are polluting the environment. We are creating problems with our ozone layers. There's more pollution in the ocean and a lot of issues when it comes to environmental challenges, right? Recycling, how do we ensure we deal with plastic and polythene and water usage? So these are all challenges when it comes to responsible marketing. And in this example, we talk about, look at the e-waste, right? E-waste. So Apple can come out and say we produce so much of phones. Samsung can say we are number one in the world. But when it comes to all these end up somewhere in the earth, somewhere on the planet, or maybe in the ocean. So all these are ethical and social and moral issues that you and I as marketers need to face, right? And today you have also harmful products like the soft drinks industry. And there are lobby groups and pressure groups that come out and they try to educate the public over these products. I mean, quite frankly, we all like to enjoy a Coke, but Coke is sweet water, right? Sweetened water. It's the most unhealthy drink with a lot of sugar and gas. So, but you know, it's a product you have a choice as an adult to buy it or not. But kids also like to have it. And that becomes a huge problem. So these are different challenges that marketers have to deal with. And then we talk about the carbon footprint. You know, every company can measure its carbon usage. The carbon means the CO2 impact, right? So there are organizations that use this as an opportunity, as you can see here, right? Here we see companies that talk about they create yarn made from recycled plastic waste to create these shoes. So they're differentiating, and these brands are loved, and sometimes consumers pay premium prices for them. And environmentalism is a concept that talks about an organized movement of stakeholders, citizens, businesses, government agencies to protect and improve the environment, not only now, but in the future. So today in the West, this is a big problem. Now in Sri Lanka, we may not see this as a big problem because we are a bankrupt country. We have a lot of other economic challenges, right? Inflation, salary issues. We have a lot of other problems. But in the West, where there's lesser problems economically, they start to increasingly force companies to think about what they're selling. Think about the value chain, the entire supply structure, distribution, to see whether we are sustainability focused, ethical, right? And again, when we talk about ethical marketing is applying high standards of ethics and morality when it comes to marketing decisions. And today, there are companies like Toyota, as you can see this example, that have set very, very strong goals and challenges on the emissions front. And there are a few other theories like ESG, like the UN Sustainability Development Goals or UN SDGs that you can use to promote your organization, right? And today there are consumers that are conscious about the environment would pay a premium price. And here's an example of antitrust, Google shopping. The European Commission recently fined Google heavily for illegally using its search dominance to manipulate the results of Google shopping search comparison services. So you can see today even Mark Zuckerberg has been taken to court, right? Because of Instagram and Facebook, people are using so much of time and they making money with people's content, with people's pictures. So you can see how Google has been taken to task. And these are very big issues in the West. And packaging is also a big problem, right? Not the product itself, but packaging. And you have seen companies over the years who have re-engineered the packaging to be more environmental friendly, just like the Puma example there. And customers are receptive to this. Customers are receptive to this. Here are the UN Sustainability Development Goals, right? Now, the UN SDGs have so many factors. Here are some examples. 17 goals: poverty, hunger, good health and well-being, quality education, gender equality, and the list goes on. So what the United Nations encourage most companies is to take or embrace one or more of these causes, and to ensure that you, in your annual report, show the initiatives that you are delivering against the sustainable development goals. And there are many companies who have embraced this concept today, even in Sri Lanka. And ESG is another concept that we use in sustainability marketing and ethical marketing that talks about the three most important components: the environmental challenges like climate change, resource depletion, waste, deforestation, social issues. There's so many things from health and safety to LGBTQ, conflict, so many social projects that one can undertake as an organization. And governance talks about how you run the company ethically, professionally, right? What you do against things like tax evasion, fraud, bribery and corruption, encouraging diversity, getting more female representation. So these are three areas. We call this ESG, right? So when we talk about ethical responsibility of marketers, marketers have a moral right to ensure that we frame our messaging properly, right? So as you can see, the first image sells sex, right? And then you see the second image shows a very different kind of emotion with the Otara there with the dogs, right? So you have to be very careful in how you frame your message. I know today, in the digital world, we talk about the highest number of likes, the highest number of views, the highest number of shares. But at the end of the day, as an organization, you also need to know that you work within a social environment. There are children out there, and the message that you send out as a brand has to be well received. It's not always about making sure that you go out there and get the highest likes, right? So that today is being looked down on by many consumers. So the ethical responsibility of marketing is to ensure that you deliver a product or a service that the customers would respect you for, and the reputation of the organization will be enhanced. So MAS some times ago developed what they call the world's first ethical bra, right? MAS sold to the world as a Sri Lankan company that we treat our laborers fairly. We don't, get them in sweatshops, and they're all working in air-conditioned environment, given sufficient wages and all the other privileges. And they sold to their customers like Marks and Spencer, Victoria's Secret, where we went out there and said, we are an ethical, Sri Lanka is ethical apparel, right? Garments without guilt, garments without guilt. That was the campaign. And you can see how organizations promote themselves, sometimes subconsciously, subliminally. But this all will result in a reputational damage to your organization, right? Here's another example by McDonald's, or sorry, Burger King. So marketers are expected to frame their messages responsibly. So it's not always about going out there and getting more likes and shares and views. We are increasingly called to be responsible. And in the West, there are companies, there are watchdogs, there are other lobby groups that look at all these, and they lobby against companies and sometimes even take them to court. And when we talk about responsibility, we talk about the triple bottom line. The triple bottom line is actually a theory where we use the three P's: profit, people, and planet. Profit means you need to undertake certain initiatives in the organization to generate bottom line growth, bottom line profits. So your shareholders who have invested in the company must get returns. That's the first goal of a manager. The first goal of a manager is to run the company at a profit. So you need to have plans for innovation, capital efficiency, risk management, margin improvement. There's so many things you need to do to ensure you deliver the company at a profit. After you make profits, after you start making profits, you have to think about the other two P's. We call this the triple bottom line. So it's not only the profit bottom line focus, which is one P. You have to think about the planet. What profits am I going to make when it comes to the environment or the planet? What profits would the company make when it comes to the social environment? It's people, it's customers, right? So you can have certain social causes, social issues like diversity, human rights, LGBTQ, labor relations, community outreach. So companies can embrace a lot of causes, and we call this cause-related marketing. And then you have the planet, where the environment-related causes, recycling, you have biodiversity, clean air, so many things. You can clean the beaches, so many things that you'll do. And if all companies implement these social activities, environmental activities, the world will be a different place. Agree? Let's move on. So here's an example of the triple bottom line. This is from my book, where you have economic activities that will generate shareholder profits, social activities that will generate environment, will generate societal, right, returns, and environmental planet-related strategies that the company can employ. And then we move on to the CSR pyramid. The CSR pyramid talks about how the company has to first make profits, how the company has to first make profits. That is the economic responsibility. First, be profitable, because if you're not profitable, you can't think about anything else. First, be profitable. And the company has a legal responsibility. Obey the law, pay your taxes, and obey the law. Then the company has an ethical responsibility. Be ethical with what you sell, how you employ your staff, how you run your business. And the pinnacle of all that is your philanthropic responsibilities. How can you be a good corporate global citizen, right? So together, companies need to work their way up over a period of time to ensure that you're ethical and then you deliver towards society and the environment. So our next indicative content in 1.2 talks about the importance of market research. Now, this is a topic that we'll delve into in detail a little later. But by definition, market research is to gather data, collect data, analyze data, report data. And it's a systematic way of gathering. It's a scientific method of gathering data where we can make marketing decisions in order to make marketing decisions to generate insights. So market research today, good old days used to have many companies that did market research, right? But today, guys, market research companies have gone out of business. Why? Today, everything is done digitally. Everything is done on an app. All surveys, as you can see here, is done online. Traditional mainstays such as in-person research focus groups is there in some areas, but now is slowly dying. So research is very, very important. And here, sometimes you don't need to go and have a questionnaire and ask customers. Now, Netflix, for instance, they do a lot of data crunching. They employ a lot of AI to give you what you like to see. This is called big data analysis. So the big data in their systems analyze your preferences, and they will very closely sort of define what you would like to see. And they will prompt those movies or those areas that you'd like to see. So to a certain extent, that is also gathering details about the customer. That is also research. And in terms of customer insights, an insight is, an idea. An insight is an idea that you have under your nose, okay, but you didn't know it was there. So sometimes this happens in companies. All of a sudden, when you crunch data, when you crunch numbers, you see an insight. An insight means it is in sight, but you have not seen it. It is in front of your eyes, but you have not seen it. That's why it's called an insight. It is in your sight, but you have not seen it. So our job is to make sure that we analyze data and find insights, because marketing is done on insights, insightful behavior, insights. So example here, the Fitbit digital text analysis, right? Talks about all the data that Fitbit collects. And then they will sell plans to you. There are so many things that the revenue generation mechanisms, but they collect all this data, right? And all to do with big data and insights. Today, you can use technology. Here, the example in a supermarket or a customer, through facial recognition and IoT sensors, they can scan people's faces, and they can, sort of put their details, and you can see their behavior in terms of shopper behavior, in-store movements, and so many things. So technology today has replaced the traditional research. Even online, you can track, through cookies, you can track and have heat maps as to where people are clicking. So today, the game has changed with regards to market research, right? Today, everything is achieved digitally, as you can see in this example. You can profile your customers. You will know a lot about your customers. Imagine the data Mark Zuckerberg has. He has our WhatsApp, our Instagram, and our Facebook, right? And also his other devices that he has, right? Now he has the Ray-Ban glasses, smart glasses. So he's collecting all this data about all of us, and maybe personalizing certain offers targeted at us, even with our knowledge, without our knowledge, right? Starbucks is another company that is reputed for using artificial intelligence, right? The Starbucks Deep Brew AI program uses AI to create personalized customer experiences and manage real-time customer interactions. So you can see how today organizations are investing money towards employing big data to modify the behavior of customers. And that is an investment that is worthwhile. And then we come into the steps in a marketing plan. The marketing plan involves 4 steps according to this diagram. Analyzing the current situation. So you need to do a situation analysis. That means you'll analyze the marketing environment. The marketing environment. When you talk about the marketing environment or a situation analysis, there are 3 environments. We will do this later. Macro, micro, and internal environment. Macro, micro, and internal environment. Then you set objectives, marketing objectives. After you analyze the environment, now you will set goals and objectives. Then you'll come up with marketing strategies. And we have to discuss that a little later. And you will implement and control the plan. That is the fourth step. So these are the steps in marketing planning. These are the steps in marketing planning. And then we'll talk about the levels of business planning. Do you know that business planning operates in 3 levels? You have strategic planning. This is the corporate plan. Your CEO, your board of directors talk about the long-term mission, and they analyze the environment, talk about the products and services that you want to launch. And then you have the second level of planning, which is called functional planning. So the CMO, or the marketing planning, the chief marketing officer, has the marketing plan. This is the corporate plan or the strategic plan. And then you have operational planning. Operational planning would be the other areas in terms of the tactical areas, right? So within marketing, operational planning might be brand planning, the brand plan or the sales plan, which is inside the marketing plan. And together with the marketing plan, you have IT plan, HR plan, all functional plans, which informs the corporate plan. So planning can happen in 3 levels within the organization. Planning can happen within 3 levels within the organization. Strategic planning, functional planning, that's where marketing plan comes. And then you have your operational plan. And it is our job to make sure we monitor and evaluate the marketing performance. How you monitor and evaluate what gets measured gets done. What gets measured gets done. So you can analyze the sales. We need to analyze the sales in detail. We have to analyze in marketing what is the marketing budget or the costs, and the return on investment analysis. We can also call it return on marketing investment. What is the return we get for the investment? So the marketers need to be accountable and evaluate marketing's performance, monitor. Otherwise, we are not there to only spend. We are accountable to our shareholders. We are accountable to our shareholders. So here we talk about how we evaluate and monitor the performance of marketing, which is very critical. And finally, we talk about the multi-channel approach to marketing. So multi-channel means how you use many channels. So when you are marketing, you will use maybe in-store, we call that merchandising. You will use online, your website. You'll use mobile. Maybe this is a mobile app, right? You'll use social media channels. You'll use exhibitions. So many channels that can be used. Okay? To succeed in business today, companies must adapt to it, right? And it must be multi-channel, cross-channel based experiences and selling. So as you can see in this example here, omni-channel marketing has to not only today, you can't only stay in a showroom and sell things. Your website needs to sell, your chatbot needs to sell, your app needs to sell, your social social media channels needs to sell. And that is called the seamless digital channels, as well as your physical channels, right? If it's a bank, you have to have the branch selling, the physical channel. Then you have the ATMs, the screens should sell, right? Then your counters should sell, social media should sell, mobile apps. All these are touch points that the consumer has. Okay, so this in effect is chapter 1.2. This is 1.2, assessment criteria 1.2. Please attempt the exam at the end of 1.2. Please read what I've given you. Watch the additional videos from CIM UK. gain a lot of knowledge. If there are any words you don't understand, you can reach out to me, or you can Google them, or read the books I have given you within your classroom. Okay, so I will see you in chapter 2. I will see you in chapter 2. Thank you.